welcome back. You know, May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and keeping tabs on your mental health is more important than ever during these trying times. As restrictions start to lift, there's a lot of fear of the unknown, fear of job security, paying bills, lots of different things. So what can you do to cope with that fear and that anxiety? Well, Vonnie Woodrick, founder of iUnderstand, is joining us once again this morning to talk about coping mechanisms that we can practice during the pandemic, as well as what they're doing to help the community. Great to see you once again, Vonnie. Good morning.
Hi, Todd. It's great to see you.
And now, the fear of the unknown, that's one of the hardest fears to deal with because, well, it's unknown, and there's a lot of that happening during the pandemic.
You know, there's so much going on right now, and there's so much fear because how many of us have lived through a pandemic? How many of us are concerned if we're going to be affected, if our family's going to be affected by COVID-19? So generally, when we have fear, what do? You know, there's usually lessons, swimming lessons, and we have life rafts. Well, we don't have life rafts today. So what are we going to do to combat that fear?
Well,
I think that's why we're here today to talk about.
Absolutely. I'm hoping that you can give us some tips on that because there is a bit of anxiety out there, and there are different levels of that anxiety as well. People are approaching this from many different places, but the coping mechanisms can be universal. So how do we cope with these types?
Exactly. And I think what I'm calling it is FOTU 20, fear of the unknown 20. And we have to start talking about it. And the first thing that we need to do is recognize what is your fear? And then we have to ask ourselves some questions. How deep is that fear? Is it a nagging fear that just does not leave your mind? Like, I cannot feed my family. I can't pay my bills. Financial devastation is probably the biggest fear that's out there right now. Mm-hmm. And so when we have those fears, the most important thing that we can do for ourselves is self-advocate. We have to find someone to talk to, whether it's a professional, whether it's a friend, whether it's family. You have to get those fears out. And writing them down, I found that when you write your fears down, they may be scrambled in your head all day long, but when you have them on paper, they don't look as bad. And maybe you can get a plan for yourself while thinking, well, you know, we can make it through this, and this, but what is our plan going to be after this? And then I think another big thing is the acceptance. Acceptance is such a key word. We need to accept what's happening right now, and we need to accept that we need to find perhaps other ways to manage and to cope.
Now, suicide is something obviously that you're strongly connected with your organization. I understand Love Heals. And then there's a rate of suicide increase that's predicted, an area of concern based on a Pine Rest study, autistic spectrum children especially. Can you speak to that?
Yes, you know, Pine Rest did a study and it showed that because of the pandemic, they are expecting a 32% increase in Michigan in suicides. And one of the categories is autistic children, autistic people. We have over 70 million people in the United States with diagnosed of autism or on the autistic spectrum. And some studies show that they are 10% more likely to have suicidal thoughts and suicidal attempts. Mm-hmm. But when we recognize anxiety and depression in them, that decreases significantly. So I'm so excited that we are able to partner with Helen DeVos Children's Hospital once again and provide a sensory room that is made specifically for children on the autistic spectrum to provide a sense of peace and calming and a safe place for those that are at harm of hurting themselves or others.
Well, Vonnie, we're running short on time, so I want to tell you we appreciate your time this morning. Stay healthy, stay safe, and we're going to talk a little bit about how you can nominate a frontline worker online as well. Thanks so much for the time this morning.